What's up guys, Carson the Parts Guy here with my video on how to install a trailer hitch and wiring on the 8P Audi A3. Step-by-step guide. And here we go. So in this video, obviously we'll have a disclaimer, a little bit about me, the parts used for this installation, tools required, trailer hitch install, and separate wiring harness installation. So this video documents the installation of a trailer hitch and wiring harness on my personal 2010 Audi A3 2.0T Quattro. And while I have attempted to explain everything thoroughly, you should not attempt this installation on your own unless you have sufficient technical knowledge to do so. Please refer to the workshop manual or instructions included with the products for any specifications not listed. I conducted this installation at my own risk. If you choose to duplicate it, you also do so at your own risk. With that out of the way, I've been in this business for 20 years. I'm currently a Volkswagen certified parts consultant and formerly a certified VW and Audi Tech parts consultant and VW service consultant, a current Audi Club North America driving instructor, and you can find me on Facebook at Carson the Parts Guy or Instagram at Carson the Parts Guy. And once again, if you find this video informative and helpful, please like and subscribe. So the parts used in this video are a Kurt 111923 Class 1 trailer hitch with drawbar, and you will have to supply your own 3/4 inch shank towing ball. I went with a 1 7/8 inch. A Hopkins 47185 multi-tow 4 flat to 7 blade and 4 flat interface. And I mostly did this because I did not want to hang the wiring harness out of my trunk and close the trunk lid on it. This is a little bit more elegant and was going for that this time around. And the wiring harness adapter we're using is a Tekonsha 119147 Modulate HD Protector Trailer Light Power Module. This puts the trailer wiring on its own powered circuit. It only taps into the vehicle wiring for signal. So other supplies that you'll need some blue heat shrink electrical butt connectors, which are OE part number 000979942 or equivalent aftermarket ones. Some electrical tape or heat shrink, silicone RTV for resealing a grommet that you'll modify to put the wiring out of it. 14 gauge primary wire, an inline fuse or fuse tap to power the light module, and a 15 amp fuse. So for tools, we'll be using 1/2 inch, 3/8, and 1/4 inch drill bits with the drill, obviously. Torque wrench, T20, T25, and T30 Torx bits, 8mm, 10mm, and 13mm sockets, a 19mm socket and open-ended wrench, exhaust hanger pliers or pry bar, a trim removal tool, also referred to as a bone tool, heat gun, a utility knife, wire stripper, wire crimper, a marker, flashlight or other form of light source, and ramps, jack, and jack stands or a lift. You'll probably use some combination of all three of those. So step one is to back the vehicle up onto ramps, or you can use jack stands, jack it up, but objectively you'll have to get underneath the rear of the vehicle, so you'll need some clearance. And step two is to remove the 3 T25 screws for the bumper inside both wheelhouse linings, both rear. So they're easy to find. You can usually get at it with a 1/4 inch ratchet. And step three is to remove both outer tail lights. And you want to do that by getting into the trunk and using a 13mm socket to remove the nut holding the tail light on each side. And you'll have to remove a small little trim screw or cover on each side to get at that. And once you have those nuts removed, carefully remove the tail light. You can stick a bone tool in there like I did. It's a very thin one, and just pry gently out away from the vehicle without scratching the paint, and you can get those tail lights out without damaging anything. And step four is to remove the 2 screws from the bumper in each side taillight pocket. And you'll have T25 screw. I think they might both be T25s. It's possible that that bolt there on the end is a T30. So two T25 screws on the underside of the bumper. Get those out of there. And then you'll want to remove the trunk striker cover by pulling up carefully. Don't want to break it. And you pull two small trim covers from the side trims and remove the 10mm nuts holding the bumper cover. The arrows point out where those covers are. Just pry those out and stick a extension with a 1/4" 10mm and just get those out of there. So at that point you want to pull the rear bumper off carefully, separate it from the clips below each taillight. You can pull out and away and use the bone tool if necessary to assist you in prying it away from the car. Step 8 is to loosen the bumper beam and pull out enough to slide the hitch up. And you want to slide it up from underneath, over the exhaust, and then up onto the right side bumper support. And then snug down the supports by hand because you want it tight to the vehicle as if it were installed so that you can mark the holes properly for the hitch. So you want to center the hitch using the trunk striker plate because that's dead in the middle of the car. And center the hitch properly, and you want to mark the 4 holes on top of the bumper supports and 2 underneath the rear body panel where the hitch is. Get all of those holes marked and go ahead and unbolt the exhaust hanger from the passenger side because it holds up the heat shield. You'll need to remove that. And then slip the exhaust off the hanger on the driver's side, lower the exhaust and pull the heat shield down because you'll need to access that panel where the heat shield is installed to install bolts for the hitch. So at that point you want to remove the bumper beam and the hitch and go ahead and drill your holes. And in the bumper beam you'll be drilling 1/2" holes. I recommend starting with a smaller drill bit size and working your way up to the 1/2". It makes it a lot easier. Then you want to drill the holes in the rear body pan and where you previously marked them in step 9, and those are 3/8 holes. You drill those too, and these will also be illustrated in the instructions provided with the trailer hitch. Step 13 is to fit the hitch to the bumper supports using 4 supplied large bolts, hardware and threaded plates hand tight, and then install the bumper beam onto the vehicle and tighten down all the bolts fully tight. Then install carriage bolts behind where the heat shield previously was and poke those out from behind using the carriage bolts and the plates and poke those through the trailer hitch and secure the washers and the nuts. And then you want to torque those things down. The big bolts are at 75 foot-pounds and the small ones underneath are at 45 foot-pounds. If you can't reach the ones towards the body on top on the supports, good idea is just get them as tight as you can with a 19-inch open-ended, 19mm, open-ended wrench. So step 16 is to reinstall the heat shield and exhaust. Get that back up there. And then step 17 is to trim the lower fascia as specified in the hitch instructions. So you're going to be at the top part will be 4.75 inches, 2.25 inches going down at an angle, and 2 inches wide at the bottom as specified in the left illustration, and it'll look somewhat like what you have on the right side picture there. Step 18 is trailer hitch install is done. And if you're only going to use the hitch as an accessory carrier and don't intend to tow or wire for a trailer, reinstall other components onto the vehicle in reverse order. If you do intend to wire up for towing, proceed to step 19, which is next. So using the metal bracket as a template, mark the hole needed to pass the trailer connector through. Then cut out the hole using a drill and a saw, a Dremel tool or equivalent, or a properly sized hole saw. Then using the trailer connector as a guide, drill 4 holes through the bumper to pass hardware through and secure with through the supplied bracket to brace it. Step 21 is to loosen the truck side trims on both sides and pull away gently to access. Remove the amplifier. You don't have to unplug it, just literally move it aside. You should have enough room. And as pointed out in this illustration, there is a grommet behind some insulation on the left-hand side, and that's the grommet you're going to want to use to pass the wiring for the Tekonsha connector out for the 4-pin connector. So at that point, you need to cut the wires off of the 4-pin Tekonsha connector for the trailer and cut them at varying lengths, which will help you keep the wiring down to a minimal thickness, and strip the wire, insert the butt connectors, crimp the butt connectors down, and heat shrink them. And as this is, of course, after you pass the cut wire through slit open grommet that you removed previously. And once you have that through, you can place the grommet back into the body and then seal up your modification with some electrical tape or some heat shrink, your choice. And then we're going to proceed to wire up the Tekonsha. So the wiring diagram I've reviewed thoroughly, and it appears both the pre-facelift and facelift 8PA3s will be using the same color wiring to tap into. So your taillight for the Tekonsha side is brown, and that goes to a brown lilac on the vehicle side for the left side taillight. And your left turn signal is yellow on the Tekonsha side, and black-white wire going to the left taillight on the driver's side. Brake is going to be red wire on Tekonsha, gray-black using the left side brake light. The right turn signal, you have to run the wire underneath and secure it as best as you can to the right side of the vehicle and access the trunk trim on the right side and get at that black-green wire to tap into for the right turn signal. So for ground, I use the amplifier bracket, which you can see at the top of the picture. That supplies an adequate ground. And for your constant 12 volts, you can do one of two things. You can use the trunk power outlet and use an inline fuse adapter and tap in there for power. Or you can run a wire to the front of the vehicle and use a fuse tap at the main fuse panel and tap into constant 12 volts there using a 15 amp fuse to power that circuit. Always check your wiring diagrams before you proceed. So at this point, the Tekonsha is supplied with a double-face tape. You can use that to apply that to the body where pictured. And then seal the wiring at the grommet with some RTV or silicone. And go ahead and reinstall the amplifier. Connect the Tekonsha 4-pin trailer harness to the Hopkins wiring connector. And connect the Hopkins ground wire to one of the bumper bolts. Just loosen that and throw that wire on there, and that supplies an adequate ground for the harness connector. And at that point, just throw everything back on the car, and you're done. Simple as that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future 8PA3 and my 07K turbo build that's coming up soon. Thanks, guys, for watching. Take care.